Hi everyone, we hope you enjoyed part 1 of our Denim Masterclass. In this session, we'll now be diving a little deeper to show you more about how to create denim destruction effects, including adding holes, grinding, and fraying to achieve perfect destructed denim look. Of course, when it comes to adding denim destruction effects to your denim garments, this look can be achieved in different ways, but we thought to share a few of our favorite practices to help get you started. Before we dive into the methods, let's understand first the logic of creating denim destruction effects in V-Stitcher. Destruction effects are similar to washes and can be added into V-Stitcher as artworks or trims. The effect is only visual, meaning that the garment in V-Stitcher would not actually be torn or frayed like a physical garment. Denim destruction effects are images, and we utilize options like maps, adding shadows, and fur to make these effects look more realistic when rendered using a ray trace render. We would normally add in destruction effects after we're done with adding washes. If you have not already seen the denim washes video, you may want to pause this video and watch the denim washes video first. Similar to washes, most of the destruction effects need to be created or obtained from images taken of these effects. Let's look at some of the ways we can create the destruction effects. To create or obtain these effects, we need to use external image editing software such as Photoshop. Thus, you will need to be skilled in such software or have your in-house graphics expert create and edit these effects. The first method is to obtain images of the destruction effects. For this, we can take pictures of destruction effects or download or purchase them from online sources. Let's use this image as an example. We will bring this image into Photoshop and edit it to leave only the destruction effect. We can crop the image first and double-click on the layer to unlock it. We use the eraser tool to remove the background. We reduce the opacity of the eraser to erase gradually. It is best to remove as much of the background as possible without erasing the strands of yarn that are sticking out. If the destruction effect has holes, we need to remember to erase the inside of the holes as well. Now we need to desaturate the image. We can do so by using the desaturate option, or we can adjust the specific colors on the image by using the replace color option. This is the best practice as we can easily change the base color in V-Stitcher using color blending. However, if we need the artwork to be colored a certain way, we could skip these steps and adjust the colors of the yarns and the base separately in Photoshop. Afterwards, we will use the curve adjustment to ensure the image is not too contrasted or faded. This looks about right. You can always edit it again in Photoshop once we have checked it in V-Stitcher. We save this as a .psd file. Saving it as a .psd file instead of an image file maintains the layers so it's easier to make changes afterwards. Bring it into V-Stitcher as a piece assignable trim. We drag and drop the trim to the garment. Adjust its size and position, and adjust the color to match. If we need to edit the color of the trim, we can edit externally from the Material Image Editor. Once we have made the changes needed, we save the file, and the trim in V-Stitcher is automatically updated. The other method is by creating the effects using Photoshop brushes. This requires Photoshop brushes that are preset with destruction effects like this, which can be downloaded or purchased from online sources. We can create one .psd file for each individual effect and save them separately. This can be useful as we can add each effect into any part of the garment. First, we need to create a Photoshop canvas. Create a new layer. Then we use the brush tool, and we select a suitable color. It is best to use white or off-white color for this, so it's easier to alter the color in V-Stitcher. This brush pack contains many different destruction effects, and we can pick one to use on our garment. If we take a look at the effect, it looks one-dimensional. To improve this, we can add a gray shadow cast on the back of the effect. We can add more texture by stamping and erasing some parts of the effect. We can delete the background and crop the image to the size of the destruction effect. Save the file as a .psd. Once done, we bring the file into VStitcher as a piece assignable trim and apply it to the garment. We adjust the color to match, and again, can make any necessary changes using the Edit option in the image editor. If we do not want to save the images of the separate destruction effects as individual files, we can use the method similar to adding the washes to a garment. We will use one .psd file for one whole pattern and add all destruction effects for that pattern in one file. For this, we will need to export a print to file of the pattern. We can use these settings to export. We bring the PDF generated into Photoshop and create a new layer before adding in the destruction effects in the areas we want. We repeat these steps to add each effect. This method allows us to create more customization of effects for the garment, as we can manipulate the brushes to create more unique effects more effectively in Photoshop. We hide the background and save a .psd file. We then add the file into VStitcher and assign it to the relevant pattern. To create added realism to these effects, when we ray trace render them, we can utilize the fur option where necessary. Note that for fur, we need to use V-Ray ray trace rendering to be able to produce the effect. Check that your preferred renderer is set to V-Ray in your VStitcher preferences. Since we are using V-Ray rendering, we can utilize the V-Ray preview window to preview the fur effect. For more information on V-Ray rendering, visit our Help Center. We can begin by selecting the trim. Then we go to the context view and select Use Fur. To make it easier, we can begin editing from a preset. Here we can choose Jeans Raw Edges. We click on the V-Ray preview window to preview the effect. Now we adjust the values to be more suitable for the effect we want to achieve. We can adjust the length to be shorter, increase the thickness, and lower the density to a value between 1 to 4. Once the fur looks okay for the effect, we can save the fur values as a preset by simply typing the name for the preset and clicking Save. Now we can use the same preset for most of the destruction effects. If the destruction effect has a hole in it, follow these steps to create a faux hole in VStitcher. First of all, apply the destruction effect with the hole onto the garment. Next, using the pen tool, trace out the hole shape above the assigned artwork. We need to convert this internal line into a shape. We drag it out of the pattern. We right-click the pattern and remove the fabric. Note, this undresses the garment in the 3D window, so don't be surprised when it happens. We need to add a transparent artwork. We can easily do this by creating a blank image in Photoshop and exporting it as a PNG file. We drag the blank artwork into the shape. Now when we drag the shape onto the pattern, the edges of the shape turn pink, indicating that it is now an artwork attachment on this pattern. We position the hole on the artwork. To view the garment again, we can load the snapshot. To create a hole, ensure that we hide background for the blank artwork. Now we see the hole on the garment. We click on the destruction effect artwork and adjust the order of the artwork to be the highest. This looks great. Let's see how it looks in the V-Ray preview window. Wow, you can even see the shadows inside the hole. Now that we know how to create a hole, what if the hole is covered with a fabric underneath? For this, we simply repeat the step of creating the hole shape with the pen tool, but we'll assign the fabric on the shape instead of a blank artwork image. Next, we position the shape above the pattern, and in the context view, click Attach. A quick tip: to avoid seeing any thickness, we lower the thickness of the inside fabric to 0 millimeters. Similarly, we adjust the order of the artworks so that the destruction effect sits above the fabric shape. We click on the V-Ray preview window to preview the effect. Creating edge destruction effects like fraying and grinding are very similar to creating the artworks, but instead we add them in edge assignable trims. When creating the edge assignable trims, ensure that the image extracted is tileable, like this. Here are some tips. If extracting an edge effects from an image, use the crop function and use transform to straighten the image. There must be a transparent background, so unlock the image first before deleting the background. If we have an edge trim that has more irregularities, we need to create a longer repeat image like this. We save the trim image as a .pst file. In VStitcher, we add the .pst file as an edge assignable trim, and use the Assign tool to apply the trim to the edge required. We adjust the size of the trim in the image editor. And, if necessary, adjust the crop region. We select Hide Background and use Fur as well. If we have a frayed edge, one thing to take note is there should be no seam and stitch construction on the transparent parts. For this, we need to add a corner point using the pen tool. And remove the seam and stitch construction here. If we have an effect that extends to the inside of the fabric like this, use the following method. First, we assign the trim along the edge like this. We ensure that the image is rotated to the correct angle and adjust the side of the image in the image editor. Next, we use the texture tool on the edge the trim is assigned to. Drag and ensure that the placement of the trim is as intended. Then we use the pen tool and draw a line across following the shape of the pattern. Next, enable Cut Mark in the context view. Now we drag a transparent fabric onto the lower part. Similarly, we ensure that the transparent edges do not have any seams assigned, and that stitch construction is flat. When using this method, it creates a floating line on the original edge like this. We must change the finish effect to the edge to none, so that there is no ghost line at the edge of the transparent part. Another example would be to add a grinding effect on the edge of the pocket opening. To do so, we first need to do a clone by offset of about 0.5 centimeters. We extract this portion to create a new pattern. And remove the seam. We assign a transparent fabric to this new pattern. Then we stitch the pattern, add it in arrange mode, and dress. If the grinding effects goes along the whole edge, we will just assign it along this edge. If it does not appear along the whole edge, we can do a clone by offset of this edge of a very small amount. We assign the grinding effect to the internal line instead. And here we can adjust the internal line to be shorter or adjust the shapes to create unevenness. Now that we have applied all the different edge effects, we can enable the fur effects and preview the garment in V-Ray. There is not one way to add your denim destruction effects on your denim garments. The examples shown are just some of the ways to create these effects. Use your creativity and your software skills to develop different ways you can add these effects. Thank you for joining the second part of our Denim Masterclass. We're excited to see how you apply these effects to your denim garments. For more information, visit support.browseware.com.